Hey, everybody. This is a little bit of a off-the-cuff stream. Um, I just wanted to finish some of the stuff that I was working on yesterday in terms of courses and lessons, building out the admin panel, because I kind of realized once I got the admin app working, there's actually not a lot of other work that I have to do here. And by the way, just so you all know what I did to fix that, for some reason in my package.json, I was pulling in the wrong version of Vuex, and I think that's got something to do with the fact that I was using workspaces, Yarn workspaces, and it just sort of grabbed a different version of Vuex for some strange reason. Same with Vue Router. So anyway, I fixed all that up in my dependencies. I think I actually deleted them because Quasar supplies all of those packages for me by default. Then I deleted .quasar. Then I deleted node modules, and then I deleted yarn.lock. Okay, so I think the lesson there is when you run into those kinds of problems, first check your package.json to make sure that you've got the right files with the new version of Quasar, especially if you're doing stuff with workspaces. It can get a little bit complex there. But then the other big one is make sure you delete .quasar as well, because Quasar's basically, I'm pretty sure it's doing some caching here for our dev server. Yeah, it's probably doing something there that might have messed things up. Because, I messed around with things in a way that I shouldn't have when I was using workspaces. So that's got to do with the problem that I had yesterday, but it looks like everything is working now. So let's come up here and let's just see if it's working. Admin dot quasarcast.test. All right, so I'm going to have to run nginx sudo service nginx start. Probably should have done this to begin with. The reason they're not running by default when my computer starts up is because I use Docker and it has some clashes with ports. So yeah, most of the time I'm using Docker, so I usually just restart them again. I should put this in one command. What else are we going to need? We'll probably need MySQL as well, and we might need Redis. So I'm going to start Redis as well. And now let's see if this is working. Yeah, there we go. And so the last thing I did was basically create a courses page which has nothing in it. I think this is going to be really simple to build as well, as long as I'm logged in. So the idea is I'll be able to just go to the normal site, app.quasarcast, no, sorry, it's just quasarcast, quasarcast.test. I'm going to have to start running that server as well. App, and we'll say quasar dev to get that running. And the idea is I'll be able to just log in at the app site, tag myself as an admin in the database. So I'll probably just do that manually, at least for now, until we end up, I don't know if I'll ever have other admins that need to work on Quasarcast, but yes, I'll tag myself as an admin and then come in here and that will load for me because I am an admin. Apparently my live is having an error. All right, let me just check the share link and see if that works. Maybe shoot something in the chat if you can hear me and everything's working fine manually, at least for now, until we end up, I don't know if I'll ever have other. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a second to check this because apparently my live is simply not working. I don't know, looks like it's fine. Yeah, the problem is YouTube is telling me that, let me try refreshing the page. Hopefully that's not going to mess this up. YouTube has basically this little live video within YouTube Studio, and currently that's, oh no, okay, it's working. Sorry about that little segue. All right, here we go. So we're at Quasarcast. I'm going to log in as myself. Now if I refresh the page here, we can see that I am logged in. It's showing in the top right there. So I'm on the courses page. Let's see if I can just create a course now. Oh, it's probably telling me to use, let's try lesson slug. Courses is not defined. Oh, okay, so, oh no, this is a courses page for app. I don't even need to worry about that for now. Admin / manage courses page. All right, so let's go ahead and create a form for a course, and I'm just going to hard code it straight into this page, and then we'll extract it into a component. So let's say q-form, and then we'll say q-input, and we'll v-model form dot, and let's just figure out the fields that a course has got by going to course.php. I'm pretty sure it's sitting in there. No, it's not. Let's go to course.js. Yeah, it knows what fields it has. Oh, sweet, my linting's starting to work, which is nice. So I'm basically just going to copy all those fields. We won't actually need lesson, but I've accidentally copied it, so I'll keep that now. We won't need ID. I want to set the slug myself, title, color, yes, caption, icon. Yeah, all of that I'm going to set myself. So now I can come in here and we're going to use setup because now we're using the composition API. And this probably won't have any props, so I won't bother passing them through. And we'll just return an empty object for now. So next, let's set up our form. So const form is going to equal ref. And am I getting some nice auto import stuff? No, it looks like I'm not. That kind of sucks. I have to do it manually for now. So let's import ref from view. And now form is equal to a reference to an object which is going to have all of those fields. So let's just copy, paste all of those fields in there. And let's set them all to null by default. By the way, anybody who's watching, feel free to say hi. And I can do a shout out to you, say hi back. Let's get some communication going on here. So then you feel more confident telling me when I screw up. All right, so looks like that's fine. Next thing I want to do is have an input for all of these. So let's do some Visual Studio Code magic. And we'll say q-input like that. What's the best way to do this? And I'm going to cut that, come back here and say v-model is equal to form, and then the name of that field like this. So that's all being modeled correctly. And that might do for now. Yeah, so let's save that and just see if it's going to work. Cool, we've got all of those form fields. Now let's set labels for all of them. Label is equal to slug. I'm also going to auto this as well. It's pretty ridiculous order at the moment. And this one is just going to be the title, the color, and I'll probably change this from an input to a color input. Caption, icon, and we don't actually need lessons. That's right, I accidentally added that in. That's just the relationship to the lesson. So I might have to create a custom field for that. Oh, no, I won't. You build a course first and then you attach lessons. There we go. The linter does its magic and makes it look beautiful for me. And now we've got all of those fields. It looks a little bit ridiculous though. So ultimately, this is going to be sitting within a card. So let's go ahead and do that part. Q-card. Q-card. And then we would want that sitting inside of a Q-card section, which basically adds some default sort of padding for us. Q-card-section. Save that. All right, what have I done wrong here? All right, it did something a little bit funky. I might have just selected the wrong area. Oh, added that in again. That needs to be sitting in there. It's doing something weird. Oh, yeah, so the section sits in there, but then this section needs to sit within the card as well. I bet you caught that as well. There we go. So we've got our card. I'm just going to set a max width on that. Style equals max dash width, 350 pixels. But we don't want that in the Q card section. We want that on the actual card itself. There we go. So that's looking good. Next, I don't like this formatting here. So what I'm going to do is make it so that I can pass through some input props, but I'll do that later on. So for now, let's just say input props is equal to an object. And this is going to be dynamic. Oh, actually, no. We'll send through an input props object like this. Input props. And then I'll come back here, make sure that's interpreted. And now we can do this. We can basically say, what are the default input props going to be equal to? And I'll say field is equal to true. And when I eventually extract this into a component, I'll be able to pass through to the form input props, which will automatically set props for every single one of these imports, so I don't have to repeat myself over and over again. But for now, we just want to set filled equal to true. We need to expose that now. Save it. It's not a property. Oh, sorry, input props. This section here should actually say v-bind. And it's bound to the input props. There we go. So now it shows a little bit better. And so if I want to change some of the styling, now all I have to do is say, for example, class is equal to, and let's say q-margin bottom, and set that to small. And it'll do it for all of them. So I think that's really handy. Okay, this is starting to look actually pretty good. Next thing I want to do is add a title in here. Should we add that above the form? Yeah. And really, this wouldn't actually sit within the form. I'd rather have the title outside of the form component. So let's say class is equal to, we might make this a div. We'll make this a proper H, maybe 4 tag. Class is equal to text-H4. It just adds a little bit of Quasar's own styling to that. And let's call this courses. All right, there we go. Yeah, I do want to throw it within the card section at least. I don't like all of that padding I get. Let's try a H5. All right, I'm still getting ridiculous padding there. So let's say, might need to refresh the page. All right, so let's just manually put in some padding. Q dash, and it's not padding, it's margining. Margin Y, and let's set that to small and see how that looks. That's a little bit better. That'll do for now anyway. I don't want to get caught up in this. I have a tendency to get caught up in these details a little bit too early on. Now for this page, let's say class is equal to flex, and then we also want to say justify center. And that's just going to put that in the center for me. Why is that coming out? Giving me weird styling now. We might want to wrap all of that within a div. Yeah, at least for now. And we've got a max width of that. I think I want to set a min width as well. So min dash width, maybe, I don't know, 300 pixels. Let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, so I want it to at least be that wide. And I think that looks good now. And by the way, my plan is, since it's an admin page for myself and I'm going to know the app pretty well, it's going to be so simple. I'm just going to have a search button here and I can search for the action I want to take. So I have a whole bunch of cards down the page for all of the actions that I want to take. And then I can just search, for example, for course. This component will be filtered out and then I can just create a new course really simply. That's my plan, to build this in such a way that it's really easy to work with in the future. Now, outside of the form component, I'm going to have a button. I always have my buttons outside of my form components. Let's set a label here equal to create. And there we go. And how about we just try and get it working to begin with? And then I'll start focusing on things like styling. So @click is equal to handle create. And I think that'll do. And now let's come in here and say handle create is equal to a function which is going to accept the form. Actually, we don't need to accept the form because we've actually got it sitting right here. So I can just use that directly and I don't even need to accept it as a parameter, which is kind of cool. And so it's not form though, you have to say form.value. When you're using ref directly, you have to use the name of that reference .value. When you're using the composition API, but within your components, you can just say form. You don't have to say .value when you're doing it within your components. I'm pretty sure that's the case. We'll find out in a second if I'm wrong. All right, so we've got handle create. We want to expose that, so we're going to return it there. And now let's say, what is this? This is a course, and then we're going to call $create for that course, and we're going to simply pass through the form.value. I'm pretty sure that is it. And I don't want to worry about validation or anything like that to begin with. Let's go back to the app page. There we go. And now let's give it a slug, my-course, title, my course, color, blue, caption, awesome course, icon, MDI dash, I don't know, let's go circle for now. create, open up the console. Did we get an error? We didn't. Holy crap, that actually just worked first go. So yeah, building on the front end is so ridiculously easy with this setup I have now. It's really awesome because once you've got Laravel Orion set up and Vuex ORM set up, the rest is actually pretty straightforward. It's just like getting all of those components in place, but now, like all the policies are correct, I can use this really easy API in order to create things and update things. I really like building in this way. And if I wanted to update that, I would just grab the course. So let's just say course.find, and let's imagine we're just getting one with an ID of 1. And then I could just call $update and then pass through any new fields that I want to use to update that. So that's pretty cool. All right, let's start extracting this now. So I'm going to come over here and let's say Quasar new component. And how about we call this create course component. We don't have to add the word component. Create course, I think we'll do. Let's open it up here. Have these side by side, and now we can begin the extraction. So first of all, I want to grab everything within the form like this, and I'm going to whack it in there. Save that. Next, I'm probably going to want to add some styling here. So I'll say v-bind is equal to adders. And I'm pretty sure with the new version of Vue, that's all I need to do for listeners as well. I'm pretty sure listeners are included in there. What else? When I return something from the setup, actually, let's grab all of our setup code here. And one of the great things about the composition API, it is pretty easy to copy paste all of this. Handle create, not input props. So let's come in here and just paste all of that in like that. We're going to receive the props here, and one of those props is going to be input props. So now what we can do is expose the props, and instead of saying input props, come down here, we can now say props.input props. So what's happening is our props are being passed through to this component. Then we're exposing those props with the props property. And now we can simply dive into it and get the input props. All right, what else? I'm getting some errors here, but I'll deal with that in a second. Next, we want the form itself. So let's come in here and add that. Course, we want to make sure that's imported. So let's say import. Can I just add the word course in here? Yeah, and it'll automatically import that. Nice. Instead of source, though, I want to change that to models. Let's see if we can fix this in the editor. So if we go to JS config, we've got all of our aliases in here. Yeah, I think it might be pretty easy to add models. So I might add it at the bottom here. So maybe after boot, let's try adding models / and that's going to go to source / models / anything. So let's see what happens if I try and import that again. Course. All right, I might actually need to restart my browser to get that working. I couldn't be bothered doing that right now. I'm going to do that I'll do that later on. I don't want you guys to have to watch me fiddling around with these kind of things in the live stream. So things I can fix up later. So we want to make sure we're importing reference, and we won't need that anymore. We won't need that anymore. Input props, we're actually going to pass that through directly, so we won't need that anymore. So let's come up here, and now we want to actually use this create course component. So how am I going to do that? We want to have it right here. Create course. And is that automatically importing that correctly? Okay, it looks like it's not. Yeah. I always get these wacky import problems using what's it called? Vector. I don't know if it's a Vector problem or something else that I've got in VS Code, but anyway. It sucks. For now I need to import it myself. So let's say create course, and that's also not going to the correct location, but you know, it's not a big deal. Something I can look into later on. So we've got create course. Next, let's say input dash props is going to be equal to an object. Field is equal to true. Class is equal to much. So what that's going to do is now pass the input props to create course. It'll be received here. Then it's exposed. I've already gone through this. Here, oh, we don't want it there actually. It's going to be sitting on props, and then we simply use it up here. There we go. And now, handle create. Yeah, so we do want to. Do we want to expose that there, or do we not? We want to expose it as a method. I'm gonna have to think through that. Why am I getting an error here? Import props does not exist on type. That's gonna change. Does it think I'm using TypeScript or something? Does not exist on type object. Oh, that's going to be really annoying if it's giving me these errors for all of that. I'm pretty sure the app's still working. Okay, but it looks like that isn't being passed through. So input props, that gets passed through here as the props. Let's console.log that to see if it works. There we go. So let's see if we're actually getting the input props in there. Dot input props. Save that. All right, so I'm actually getting undefined here. So it looks like those props aren't being accepted in there. So if anyone has an idea of what I could be doing wrong here, I'm pretty sure that's how you use the composition API though. Props, and then I say the thing that was passed through. Maybe I can't use that casing anymore. Input dash props, or maybe it's got to do with the fact that I'm using vbind up here. Let's try saving that and refreshing it. No, okay, so let's just quickly look that up. View 3 passing props composition API. And let's see how they're doing it here. I've done this before though. I'm pretty confident I'm actually doing it right, but hey, I could be wrong. So it's under setup. And then props, and if we console.log that, yeah, we should be getting the props that were passed through. Oh, I think I need to say, oh gosh, Luke, I'm so silly, but I still need to say what props I'm going to accept here. So we need to say, for example, props, input props, so that I know that I'm going to accept them. The type of that is an object. The default is going to be equal to an empty object. And now I'm pretty confident that that's going to work. We send through the props. I'm still getting errors in my linter, but let's see if it's working here now. Yeah, it's actually working, but I'm still getting problems with that linter, so I don't really know what to do about that. It's almost like it wants me to use TypeScript, but I'm not using TypeScript, and I've never indicated at all that I'm using TypeScript. Have I? No, this is a JS config file. All right, I'm just going to delete that and then restart my editor and see if we still end up with those problems. Otherwise, we'll just move on. All right, so let's get out of that, jump back into VS Code and run those servers again. cd into admin, Quasar dev. By the way, for those of you that are new here, Quasar dev is admin is my app that's using the new version of Quasar, but app is still using the older version of Quasar. And it's pretty cool that the CLI tool is going to let us use both of those versions of Quasar, and it's, without a worry. So that's kind of cool. All right, so give them a second to run. Looks like admin's running now, so let's refresh that. And I'm not getting any of those errors anymore, so I'll figure out how to get Veto working at another time. What's next? So now that we can create it, let's make it so that we have a loader. So I'll come down here, set up, let's come up here and say const loading, or how about creating to be more specific? No, I like loading because that's what it's called on the button as well. So it's a little bit more consistent in terms of the API. But it's not indicative of what we're doing, really. We're creating a course. It is the creating spinner. Yeah, all right, we're going to say creating. So that is going to be a reference to false by default, we will expose that when we say handle create. We say creating dot value is equal to true. And when this is done, we take the response, RESPONSE, that word that I can never spell, but I'm going to get better at it. And then we say creating dot value is, do I have to say dot value? I'm pretty sure I do. Is equal to, actually, no, we'll set this to final. Is it final or finally? Final, finally, we'll find out in a second. So when we're done, we say creating dot value is equal to false. And let's see if that works. And I want to have some default data here because this is going to be annoying to have to do it every single time. My dash slug title is equal to my dash title. Come to think of it, some of these fields should probably be unique, so maybe I should fix that in the database. Color is equal to blue. Caption is equal to my caption. And icon is equal to MDI dash, we'll just do circle for now. All right, there we go. It's all filled in for me. Oh, and we might as well hook loading up to... Oh, no, we can't. Oh, actually, we don't want the loader on this component because I always have the button on the consuming component, on the component that's actually using the create course form. By the way, that should be create course form. That's bad. I named that badly. Oops. Oh. It's not at the top of my list anymore. Yeah, that's really important. By the way, a convention I follow all the time, all of the time, is to have the last name of my wrapping component to be the name of the type of component. So if I was wrapping a Q dash button, then I would say, for example, create course. I actually use the full word button, so that's like the one exception. But if you're using the table component, create course table. If you're using the card component, create course card. I always have the last thing as the name of the quasar component, so it's always blatantly obvious what it's wrapping. And it just makes working with the API so much easier. And it's just like, if you're already using that language anyway, when you're using quasar components, so you might as well do things in that way. All right, so I'm being a little bit tangential today, so let's see if I can get back on track. So now this is create course form. I've renamed that to create course form. We're also going to have to come down here and find other occurrences of it. There it is there. Save that. I don't know why it's squawking. Oh, there we go. And let's refresh the page, and that's working now. So we're going to have a button here for creating the course. And the way that I want to use this is to say the reference to that is create course form. And then we will say at click is equal to, and we pass through a function here. And then we grab the reference. So we say refs.create course form. And then we can say dot handle create, or maybe just create. Yep, I think that'll do. And before we do that, we're going to say that the loader is equal to, or creating is equal to true. So this will be easier now. We can just say creating equals true. And then when it's done, creating will be false. So no, that's not the way I'll do it. What we'll do is we'll have a success event which handles the creating attribute. So what we'll actually do is we'll say at success here, creating is equal to false, and at error, creating is equal to false. Okay, so basically clicking is just concerned with calling the create method, and then this is concerned with setting the loader to the right state. So now we can come in here and we'll say const creating is equal to a reference to false to begin with, and then we say here return creating. All right, so now we want to import ref. So let's say import, and I've really got to take the time to figure out how to get the right auto importing here at some point. Ref is equal to view. So we're going to yank that out of view. Oh, no. import ref from view. Okay, so that should all work. The setup is correct. This is going to be called on this component, create course form. So now we need to actually expose that method. And I'm not sure if I can do it in the setup. So let's just see if that works. Instead of handle create, I'm going to change that to create. We don't need to worry about this anymore. That's now being handled on the parent component. We don't need that anymore. And the next thing I want to do is say, when this is successful, then take that response of that, take the response we got from that. Oh, I've spelled this wrong again. And then we're going to say, emit, I've got to remember how to do this properly with the composition API. Emit success and send through the response, and we need the response, and emit needs to be passed through here. So what we can actually do is we accept props, but we can also accept emit like that. And now success needs to be in emits, an emits array on our component. All right, that's a new thing with Vue 3. With Vue 3, when you're emitting something, you need to say what you're going to emit. All right, so we've got create, and then let's add in here .catch for errors, error, and then we're going to say emit error is equal to whatever error we got. So let's save that. And once again, we need to come up here and say that we're emitting it. This linting is pretty nice, though. I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed with the linting. So let's see if this actually works now. Let's try create. The request worked. I didn't see a spinner because we haven't actually hooked it up yet. So we also want to say here, loading is equal to creating. So if it is creating, then it will be loading. So let's refresh the page, and then I'll go to network, set it to slow 3G to simulate slow internet. All right, so that is not working. But it's emitting successfully. So let's go back to no throttle. We need to make sure that creating is being set. So at success, creating is equal to, okay, so it needs to be set to true here. Oh, I haven't set it here on click. So creating is equal to true, and then it gets set to false if it's success or an error. All right, refresh the page. And now let's throttle that to slow 3G, and it works. Nice. Cool. So it'll be very easy now to copy this pattern for our other forms. But yeah, that's it. It's working. That does everything that we need it to do now. So I can now create a course, which is awesome. Let's make it so that I can create a lesson, and you'll learn some cool tricks along the way. But before that, I'm going to create a special component just for fetching the lessons from a drop-down list. And I'm going to do it in a naive way, and then we might later on do like a more complex way that handles more situations. So I'm about to show you a very common pattern that I use in Vue, and I think you'll find this particularly useful. So let's cd into admin, and I'm going to say quasar new component. And what are we going to call this? We'll call this the lesson select. Yeah, I think that's a good name. Lesson select. And once again, notice that the last word is select because that's the name of the quasar component that will be the underlying component. So now let's come over here and open that up. We probably don't need that anymore. And I'm just going to use it down here. So lesson select. And I'm actually going to call fetch on here. So what I like to do is have it so that I can add a property called fetch, which means it's automatically going to fetch those lessons for me. Or if I want, I can say entities. So if I already have the lessons, I can just pass through my lessons like this. All right, but for now, we're just going to implement fetch. All right, so I bet you this didn't import properly. Yeah, God, this is doing some wacky stuff. Just kind of frustrating. Yeah, all of that import stuff hasn't worked for me for years. And I still am baffled as to how to fix it. My auto imports. Um, but I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. Let's move on and actually do this. So we have our lesson select component. Let's refresh the page here and see if it shows up. It's not. It should be at least showing my component. So let's come back here. Lesson selected should be sitting underneath create course form. Oh, there we go. It is sitting there. I've just put it in the wrong spot. I want to sit it at the bottom of the page here. Yep, cool. Let's just add a little bit of space. I think I can just do this. Q dash space. I don't think I've ever used that before. Oh, no, that's for horizontal space. All right, so let's say just class equals Q dash margin Y extra large to give us a bit of space there. Yep, cool. So this is going to be a Q select component. We can now start building it. We will receive the props through there. And then I'm going to return them because we're probably actually going to need those props later on. This is going to be a Q dash select. And we'll say V dash bind is equal to whatever attributes were passed through. That means that I can do some styling on the select component. Actually, I think by default, maybe view makes it transparent, so I don't have to do that anymore. Let's see. Color is equal to green. Yeah, wow. So I don't have to say vbind adders anymore, do I? Why am I getting this error here? Yeah, okay, it's just saying I'm missing a required prop. But that's showing up green now. Man, that's really cool. Okay, so looks like I might not have to. I'm gonna have to learn about that because I don't really know. Like, why am I able to do that without saying v-bind adders? I know that there's some new stuff in terms of transparency with Vue, but I don't really understand it yet. So I'll learn that later on. Now we want our options here, and our options are going to be equal to. Let's set it to request value or requested data. Requested, yeah, data. Because basically I want to distinguish between data I've gotten from entities and data that's been requested. Actually, we might put that in a computed property though. So how about we just say options here? And now what I can do is say, oh, by the way, while I think of it, props, then we'll say here fetch, type is Boolean, default is false. Yeah, so now what I can do here is basically say, have a computed property for options, and if we receive entities, then we're just going to spit out those entities. If we receive fetch, then we're going to go ahead and fetch the data, save it on a data property, and make sure that the computer property says, actually, we're going to get it from the fetch data instead. So that keeps this component super flexible. So the lesson select can either receive the data directly or it can fetch the data itself. I like putting that responsibility onto the component. Some people might not like that. I personally like it because it keeps the component super flexible. All right, moving on. What are we doing here? So now I need to do computed properties, and I've got to be honest, I don't remember how to do that in Vue, but that's why we're here, so that I can learn all of this stuff. So let's say computed and see what their searching is like. All right, that was pretty easy. So it looks like we're importing computed, and it literally just receives a function. Oh, wow, that's so easy. That's so easy. Okay, so I think what they're saying is I can just say import computed from Vue, and now I'll be able to use computed like this, like compute const options is equal to computed, and then we simply have a function here, and let's return for now. How about just this and that? So save that. Let's expose it to see if it's actually working. Cool, it's working. Now let's fix this arrow here. And I think the reason is if I go to Quasar configuration, I need to set my default icons file. And I think by default it's set to material. Yeah, so the icon set I need to change to MDI version 5, like this. And if I save that, I think it's going to do the proper mapping then for my icons. Yep, sweet, that's working now. So now we got this and that. And of course it doesn't select because it's not being modeled properly. So let's come back here to the Manage Course page and actually model some data there just for some testing. Model is equal to, oh man, I've made a blunder here. We don't want to do this for lesson, we want to do this for courses. Because it would be like we're creating a course and we want to select the lessons for that course. That's right, this is a very easy fix. We simply change that everywhere from lesson to course. And let's set that to selected course. Return that there. And then we'll have a reference to selected course, which will be equal to null by default. Okay, so now that's being modeled. And now we simply need to go to lesson select and change the name of it. Change that now to course select and see if that works. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back and check that the component is still working. And it is. So let's run through the logic here of what's going to have to happen. When this is created, if we have the fetch property set to true, we want to make a request to the backend to get all of our lessons. And I might do some filtering, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. For now, we'll just say simply fetch everything. So let's add a function here called, we don't even need to add a function, do we? I think I might be able to just do this. Why don't we just say, nah, I might put it in I'm sort of thinking out loud here. What do I want to do? Basically, I want to fetch all of our lessons so we can, let's write out the logic and then we'll decide if we want to put it into a function. So how about we say import lesson from models /lesson. All right, now we can just say $get on that. And that's literally all I have to do to get all of the lessons. So let's see if that request is being made and if it's successful. There we go, the request was made. There it is there. And if we look at the response, we've successfully fetched all of our lessons now. All right, so that was super easy. The next thing I want to do is set a property that will be requested data or something like that. So how about we come up here and we say const requested data, and we set that equal to a reference to an empty array to begin with. And then we can say when we've successfully got all of our lessons, we can say then take the response of that request. Once again, I spelled response wrong, so you just got to laugh at myself and practice it a bit. Oh man, I'm still getting it wrong. All right, I'll get it eventually. So now we can set requested data equal to our response.data. I have to say data because when we're using Orion, our data is nested within a data property, which is why I've said data there and said it twice. Okay, so now we've got our requested data. We basically want to say here, if props.fetch, if the user wants me to fetch this, or if the person giving me the prop wants me to fetch this, then I'm going to return requested data. Otherwise, I'm going to return entities. We'll say props.entities. And now I can come up here and say we might get entities as well. So entities is equal to an array, and by default, that's going to be equal to, I think I'll just set it to an empty array, like that. All right, so what doesn't it like? It doesn't like I'm using ref and I haven't imported it, so let's do that. We've got our requested data dot value. I think that's why it's squawking. Wow, this linting is amazing. And now that should be correct. So let's refresh the page here. And it's showing nothing by default, but let me just check if that's sitting in Vuex ORM now. Oh, what? Oh, maybe they haven't released Vuex for, maybe they haven't released Vuex yet, or maybe there's something I need to do. Oh man, I can't even look at my state. Maybe it's a plugin. Oh crap. Oh, that's all right. I'm just gonna have to find another way to debug this. All right, so let's just see if we can console.log what we got there, response.data.data. See if that worked. It did. So now we're getting all of the data. The next thing we want to do is map it. Oh, we don't even need to map it, actually. We can just say, oh, sweet. We've got type hinting here. Basically, I want to change the way that it's modeled. So I can't remember how to do that, so I'm going to have to go to the docs. Well, we've already got the docs over here. QSelect. Oh, look, they've got this new API section, so let's use that instead. I've been excited to try this. So the API Explorer, QSelect. There we go. And now I want to change the way we model this. So the model value is going to be equal to the ID. So we want to model the ID of what we get on the options object. And I think we can also say the label value as well. Label color. Let's just search for the word label in here. Man, the way, honestly, the way the docs are done in Quasar is freaking awesome. It is so, so good. The way that you can like search things a second time here, it's so beautifully done. I honestly think that they've absolutely nailed it. And so the options label is going to be equal to the course's title. Let's come back here and see if that's working. All right, it's not. So how about we try this now? How about we try and console.log whatever options is equal to? So console.log options to see if that's being set correctly. But that's actually not going to work yet because it will not have been fetched yet. So how about we just create a button that logs it? Maybe I'll create like a logger function. So const logger is equal to console.log params, and we can accept params in there. And now we'll expose that. And now what I'll do is basically say, maybe like have a button in here or something. We'll say at click. Then we will say logger and try and log options. Oh, I don't know if that's going to work. All right, so it's being fetched. All right, we'll keep digging deeper. Options is being exposed. We're setting options to a computed property. It's possible that I'm doing this. Oh, requested data dot value. That's what it should be, shouldn't it? Ah, it's working. Tremendous. Okay, so that's being fetched from the backend. Next, we probably want to add some loaders as well. So let's come up here and say const fetching is equal to false by default. Once again, we need to use ref false by default. I'm going to expose it up here, fetching, and then we can say dot, actually, no, we want it to be set to true by default, but we only want it to be set to true. Oh, yeah, so let's set that to false, and then we'll say if the user wanted to fetch it, we'll say fetching is equal to true. Fetching.value is equal to true. Why doesn't it like that? Unexpected side effect. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So really what I want to do is kind of have an option up here and say if props.fetching, if the user is going to be fetching this data, so props.fetch, sorry, then I want to set fetching equal to true. Okay, because if they pass the entities, we don't want to set that to true. All right, that looks good to me. Next, we want to be able to set it to false on finally. So dot final, let's set fetching.value equal to false. I think that's everything that we want to do. It doesn't like something there, should not return an assignment. So let's do it this way. Yeah. Okay, what doesn't it like? It doesn't like that I'm using $. Is it finally? Finally. Cool. And so that fetching request should have been happening. So let's now expose that. We already are. And we want to actually say loading on the select is going to show if we are currently fetching the data. And that should be it. So now I'm going to set the network equal to, let's say, slow 3G and see if we get that spinner there. Oh, whoops. I think when I highlighted the console, it got rid of the slow 3G part. Slow 3G, refresh. We should get a spinner. Yes! It's fetching, and it's done, and there's the data. Okay, cool. I'm super happy with that. All right. So let's think about it. Next, we can create a course. Next, we want to be able to create a lesson, which is going to, oh, by the way, we shouldn't be fetching from lesson there. We should be fetching from course. Luckily, that was an easy change. Yeah, so those are all of our courses. So now what we want to do is we want to be able to create a lesson, and using this select, we can select which course that lesson is going to be assigned to. This is going to be so much fun. So let's go to our create course component. Let's duplicate it, and we'll call it create lesson component. And later on down the line, we might find ways that we can actually streamline creating these form components rather than repeating, Q input over and over again. But that's for another day. And now let's say here, create underscore. I want to go into the migration just to see what fields we have available. And I'm going to alt click all of that. And we're also going to need this foreign key here, which will be the course ID. So let's delete all of those except for the first one. So I've got a reference point, and we can just paste that directly in there. So now let's come down here and say q-input, and then v-model is equal to form dot, and then the name of the field, like that. And what doesn't it like? Oh, I didn't close it off. Yeah, okay, so that it doesn't finish it off properly when I'm doing things this way. That's all right. And then we also want to add this v-bind here. So let's do this. We want to bind our input props to that. And we also want a label for each of these. So let's come down here and add a label for all of them. All right, so now I can delete that. And when I save it, check this out. Thank you, linter. Woohoo! All right, so that's going to be equal to title, slug, that's already correct. Description, while I'm at it, let's set the type equal to text area. Okay, provider. So this is basically us saying whether or not it's going to be YouTube or Vimeo. So what I might do is make that a QSelect. And I might be able to just inline this. Let's set the options equal to YouTube and Vimeo. All right, so that's going to be provider. What about we say video provider, so we can be more descriptive in the select itself. All right, so that'll be good. And by the way, how easy is it to do all of this? It's super easy and fun. Oh, was that provider ID? Yeah, okay, so that's the provider ID. Let's do that after the provider. And I'll just copy everything I did there and paste it in there. And the provider ID is going to be a Q input. And later on, I'm actually going to create a component that will automatically find the ID for me. But for now, I'll just paste the ID in directly. So let's say video ID. And then next, we've got published at. So that's going to be a Q-date. And we'll say here, published at. I don't think you actually need a label for this. Oh, maybe you do. I can't remember. We'll have a look at that in a second. And this is going to be the length, and the type of that is going to be equal to number. And I think I have to say v-model dot number in order to model that correctly. So yeah, that's all of those fields. So what I might do now is say, grab all of these sections where it says form, copy the field, and now let's go down to our form and paste that in directly. And I'm just going to give these default values so that it's going to be easy to work with in the future. So the title will be equal to learning Vuex-ORM. This is a series I created a while back. Oh, it looks like I put provider ID in twice. Yep, I did. This one should just be provider. Cool. Why isn't that working? Oh, okay, I got them the wrong way around. This one should be provider. Video provider. And this one's video ID, and now I need to switch them again. Oh my gosh. Looks like I confused myself before. And this is now going to be a QSelect. All right. That looks okay now. So learning Vuex-ORM, and we'll call this, but this is an actual lesson. So how about we just say, oh, what's one of the lessons? Many to many, and then we'll add a dash explained. This is where I basically explain what a many-to-many relationship is. So the slug for that should be that. And now let's change that to title case. Control-Shift-Enter, title. I've got a, whoops. Control-Shift-P, title. I've got like a really cool tool for that. It's just a really quick way to change things between cases. Description, learn about the many-to-many relationship. Provider ID, let's go ahead and just find that. YouTube, and we'll say Vuex-ORM. And this is my tutorial series on Vuex-ORM. And there should be one on the many-to-many relationship where we explain it. Many to relationship, many to many explained. That would be it. Yeah. Cool. And now we want the video ID. Where is it? Oh gosh. This is a mess. V. I'm guessing V is the video ID. So let's just copy that. In fact, I can test this. Let's get rid of all of that and see if it works. Yep. So that's the video ID. Pause that. Let's come back here, paste in the video ID, and the provider itself, provider is equal to YouTube. Whew, okay. Publish that, and let's say date dot, we can just say new date, I think. I think that'll work. We'll find out in a moment. And the length, I don't know, let's just set that to 3,800 to begin with. Okay, now we can have a look at this form and see what it looks like. So we want to go to the page, the Manage Courses page. We've got our Create Course form, and I'm going to copy all of that. And let's actually just create a whole new card for this. There's definitely going to be many ways I can simplify this page. That's for later on. And this will be Create Lesson Form. I'm not even going to bother auto-importing that because it's going to mess something up. So let's come in here and say import create lesson form from components/create lesson form.view. And there we go. So now we can add that component in here. And let's come back. And there we go. But instead of courses, of course, we want to call this lessons. And really, we'll be more specific by saying create lesson. And rather than courses, we'll say create course. And for those of you that are new in this video and haven't been following along, basically I want to make it so that I can just search at the top of the page for the action I want to take. So I'm just going to sit everything underneath each other in cards. And then when you start searching, it's going to show the action related to that. Because this is just built for me, it's going to be a super fast way for me to say, I want to create a course. So I'll just say create course and just type that in. And then it'll just show this card here. So let's add a little bit of padding. Create course form. Yeah, let's come in here and say class is equal to q-margin bottom and probably extra large for that. By the way, I do this all the time. Some people hate it, and I say I don't care. I use the style tag all of the time in my components for stuff. Or it's almost always for this one reason though, for setting a max width and a min width, because I don't have CSS classes and it depends so much on the situation. It's like who cares if you have a style tag if it's really succinct and it's doing the exact thing that you want? I would rather do that than write custom CSS. There's nothing I hate more than having to do this. For some reason, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I hate doing styling, which is one of the things I love about Quasar, because it's Quasar is just freestyling. Huge part of it is just I don't have to write CSS anymore. I hate CSS. Anytime I don't have to write CSS is just like wonderful to me. So even though technically this is CSS, I love that it's sitting right there and I can change it straight away. And I will use style tags until somebody gets mad enough to remove it from the spec, which will probably never happen. So anyway, moving along. Let's come down here. We've got create lesson. I'm going to make this create course invisible for now, so this is easier to work with. v-if is equal to false. And now we've only got create lesson. Many-to-many explained. We can select a date in there. Now, it's not working when I use a default date. So why is that? Let's say new date. Publish date, new date. I don't need they do want the parentheses. Why isn't that being set by default? All right, let's go to Q date. Oh, I should have stayed on the API page. Yeah, Q date model. And I basically just want to be able to say, can you accept a date object? What does it want by default? So for the value, what is it expecting? It might be a better idea to just look at the docs. Oh, you can even have multiple dates. That's really cool. Yeah, okay. So let's say Q date and let's see what it's recommended in the docs. So here's an example. They've got a selection by default there. V-model date. And how are they getting that date? A reference to, okay, they're doing it with slashes. Oh, really? So I can't just send through a date object? I don't know about that. But I know that Razvan is an absolute genius, so it's not like he's done this unintentionally. How about this model mask? The default model mask is year, month, day. All right. So what I might do then is by default use Quasar's date utility class. So if we import date from Quasar, and then what we'll do is we'll say const, what is it? Date dot format date. So now I can say format date, and this is going to help with tree shaking, is equal to date, but I need to make sure I'm actually pulling that out. So now I'll be able to use format date directly like this. We can say format date, pull in a new date there, and then we can say the format is equal to year, month, day, and they should be all capitals. Capital, I haven't got a capitalized function. Month, day. So let's see if that works by default. I'm starting to get a bit tired, so I might take a break in a second. There we go. It's selecting the default date for us, and now we can go ahead and change that. Hopefully that's going to work on our back end as well. Otherwise, I'm going to have to play around with this, which is really annoying. I hate working with dates, but such is life, so get over it, Luke. That's the way things are. Okay, so create course form. We can't have creating anymore because it's being used all over the place. Really, we want to have like a create lesson card. Or, you know what? Let's do it this way. this would be, we could say like component for that and then send the component through. No, you know what? That's for later on. So let's just say I'm going to do something a little bit cheeky for now. Let's say creating course. Oh, whoops, someone's creating lesson. And then up here, we'll say creating course. But obviously, we're going to need some sort of abstraction soon. So creating course like that. And now we'll come down here and we'll say creating course and then creating lesson. So let's get the creation of a lesson working as well. We want to make sure that they're both available. So we'll do that, save it, and let's come back and refresh the page. So that's still working. So when I click on this, it should do everything. Actually, I think I've done everything. Oh, except that needs to be changed now to lesson. Let's search for the word course to see, whoops, to see if I'm using it anywhere. Yeah, so we want that to be lesson all over the place. All right, so admit success and error. We create the lesson. We admit success when it's successful, which means that the loader will be set to false. Or if there's an error, it's set to false as well. And then on the button, when we click on it, we say that it is creating. And by the way, we should have a loading here that's set to create it. Yep, I think everything is set up correctly now. Let's just test it and see if it works. This will be fun. All right, so that's a backend error. Oh, we need to add a course ID. Oh, this is the fun part. This is where we actually get to use that component we built before. So let's jump into the lesson form now. Oh, I've already got it over here. And we want to use that lesson component. So I'm going to say here, that's getting a little bit crowded. I'll have to organize these imports in a second. Import course select from components / course select .view. Double click that to check if I wrote it correctly, and I did. And now let's come in here and say components is equal to course select. And now what I can do is use that component up here to select the course that it's applied to. And I might actually make that the first step here. So it's going to be very similar. It's still going to receive the input props here. And we're going to model the course ID. So we're going to have to add that field. And let's set the label equal to course. And now we'll change the component itself to course select. Cool. So if we go to our form now, we want to make sure we have a course ID. And we'll put that up here. And that will be null by default. And I think I want this to be clearable as well. I hate it when they're not clearable. Should I? Clearable? I don't know. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it looks like clearable is not working anyway. Oh, we need to select something before we can clear it. Oh, and we need to actually say, hey, I want you to fetch this. There we go. And now I can clear it with that little clear button. But you have to have a course anyway, so clearable doesn't even make sense here. There we go. And later on, I'll add some search functionality to this as well, but this will do for now. So now we can create a lesson. We can say what course it's for. It's got a title, a slug, a description, video provider. Hey, Abel, how you doing? Video ID as well. That should not be a select. Oh man, I screwed that up again. Video provider. That's the one that should be the one with the options, and it should be a select. Oh man, how did I mess this? I've changed this several times now. It's like too many brain farts. I just saw your courses page. Yeah, awesome. I've actually got a ton more courses, but they're on YouTube. And so one of the reasons I'm working on this site is to make it ridiculously easy to then just link up those courses to my YouTube videos. And that's actually kind of the point of this page. I want to be able to just say, create a course, create a lesson, telling it what the YouTube ID is. And then later on, we'll be able to actually have some automation as well. So when I create a YouTube video on the back end, that is picked up and it automatically creates a lesson and attaches it to the correct course for me. I think that would be really cool. So, right, what else am I doing here? That might actually be everything. Let's refresh the page. All right, there's still... So the provider ID should be an input. Luke. Buh. And there we go. Now we select the provider. There's the video ID. From Panama. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? Let's go to maps and look, you all know whereabouts I live now. Panama City. Oh, wonderful. Oh, cool. Can you get from... Would it be possible to walk from Colombia all the way through to Mexico? I guess you could. It looks like you could. I don't know what the terrain's like, though. Man, that's really cool. All right, sorry, I got distracted. I'm always curious to know, like, where people are from. Wow, it looks like a lot of Panama is relatively untouched and green. I don't know, it's probably hard to tell when you're just using Google Maps, though. Ah, awesome. All right, cool. Moving on, back to coding. Welcome, Abel from Panama. So next, why is the slug set to that? So that shouldn't be slug, that should be length. There we go. If anyone else tells me where they're from, let me know, and I'll Google Maps it, because I'm curious to know where people are from. It is where the channel is. Ah. All right, so let's select a course, my title, blah, 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 and let's create it. Okay, sweet. We've got an error on the back end, but that's always a good thing, because it means we got the chance to fix something. I think that's related to the date. I'd be willing to bet that's related to the date. South Africa! Woo! So is this a good time for me to cast if you live in that area of the world? Because it looks like you're both in a similar time zone. Oh my gosh. I've always wanted to see the wildlife in Africa. What kind of animals do you have in South Africa? Looks like there's baby elephants. Oh, that is so cute. Oh, amazing. And I wonder what the weather is like over there. Madagascar, great movie. I don't know if the place is actually like the movie. Very cool. All right, back to coding. So that's all working. What's the problem I'm running into here? This might be one of those situations where you literally just copy it and just paste it into Google. Honestly, people don't do this enough. I don't do this enough. It's almost always got like the exact problem, answer to the exact problem you have. A die and dump, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it's just that you're trying to save an array as a singular value. All right, so it looks like one of the values that I'm trying to save is not formatted correctly. So let's look at the headers here. Ah, it's the course ID. So the course ID is emitting the actual object for the course. I don't want that. I want it to emit the ID. So we want to make sure that we're modeling the ID itself. This is a common pattern that you might actually want to do. So I'm glad we ran into this. And I'll show you what I mean by that. If we go to emit-value, that means that when you change a value, it's going to emit the underlying value that you've set as the value. I'll show you what I mean. So course select. So see how I'm saying here, model value is our ID. Now if I say emit-value is equal to ID, it means that when I change this, ID will be the value that's emitted. And the other thing we want to do is say map options. And what that's going to do is actually make sure that the options that we show are mapped against the ID. Now, this does slow things down a little bit. So if you have I was about to swear then. If you have a ton of things in your select menu, you might want to look at a different way to handle this problem. But for our tiny select menu, this is totally fine. So let's click on there and select a value there. And I can't look at the underlying data because View DevTools doesn't seem to work with what's it called, Vuex yet. Hey Luke, it's midnight here. It's hot and humid during our summer. Yeah, we get hot but not so humid in summer here. But if you go up to Queensland, because I'm in New South Wales, if you go up to Queensland and places like Cairns, then it gets really hot and humid. But I love that weather. You know, I love getting like really warm and sticky. I don't know why. God, I must be a weirdo, but I really love that kind of weather. I hate cold. So maybe that's got something to do with it. All right, so let's refresh the page here and check that the data that we're sending through is actually being modeled correctly. So we'll click on Create. Let's take a look at the data itself. All right, it's still not being modeled correctly. I saved that. Maybe I need to actually refresh the page here. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Let's select the course again. Create. Come down here. No, all right. So maybe it's the map options part that I'm getting wrong. Let's take a look here. I can get out of that. I can get out of that. I can probably get out of that as well. Let's reduce all of our tabs. So I'm still getting used to the new dev tools. Not as intuitive as I thought it would be. Inspector. I'd rather just have them over the top. I'm sure they'll let me change that. But, anyway. Where's the button where I can expect what's on the page? I gotta be honest. Oh, it's over here. Okay. So now let's go to Create Lesson Form and just check the data is being modeled correctly. Yeah, and it's not. So let's come back and see what I'm doing wrong here. Model value, we're saying we want to omit the value ID. This might actually be a bug. Omit dash value. The model content can be influenced by omit value prop. And then I'm pretty sure we've got map dash options. The model can contain only the value. And there it is there, map options. Yeah, I agree. I use map options pretty much all the time. The only problem with it is if you're modeling objects, what it then has to do is it has to go through, like in this example, every single object, iterate through every single one of them and check the ID, which is actually kind of slow. So I think there might be a faster way to do it using slots where you basically manually pull out the ID, but there'd be a whole bunch of fancy stuff that you need to do. And honestly, unless you have a huge amount of data, I don't even think it's worth the extra pain. So yeah, I've never hit a situation where I've needed to do it any other way. So I always just use map options. Yeah. Tell it which values you want to issue. What do you mean by that? I've set here model value is the ID. Oh, no, it shouldn't be model value. No, that's correct. I want to model the ID. Maybe that's changed in View. Okay, so maybe we don't actually... Okay, so maybe we still want the model value to remain the same because that's the underlying value that's being modeled on select, but we want to omit the ID and map options. Let's just see if that works and refresh the page here. Oh, did I do that wrong? Option.value. Oh, I wrote the wrong thing in here. Oh, Abel, thank you so much. I think that might be it. What's this? Prop. What component is that? There, put the key that comes from your API. Yeah, so option value is now ID. We're emitting the ID. We're mapping the options. But it looks like we've actually got a problem with the underlying QSelect component itself now. It's almost like it's telling me I need to manually set that equal to true, which is weird. No, I'm pretty sure, or maybe the API is slightly changed with map options. I don't think it has. Map dash options. No, it's a Boolean. No, no, no. Okay. You know, it's weird. I do this pattern all the time, but now I'm having like a total brain fart. And I can't figure it out. Expected Boolean got string with value ID. Oh, okay. Oh, I get it now. We want to say emit the value, but then this is saying what the actual underlying value is. Oh, that must have been painful for you, Abel, because you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, I can see the problem. I wish this guy would just, like, figure it out already. Let's see if it's working now. Thanks, though. Thanks for, like, pointing me in the right direction. It worked. We were able to create a lesson now, and it's got the correct data. Let's see if it's correct. It's pointing to a course. The course ID with an ID of 2. So the course with an ID of 2 should be equal to my course. So let's check that. API, art, tinker, course, find with an ID of 2. Yep, it's working. And thank you, Abel, for pointing that out for me, even though I was a bit of a dumb and I didn't really like pick it up straight away. So memo to self. In fact, let's add that to the list of things that I want to write a post about. Let's talk about this pattern here. So this pattern. As I go, what I like to do is say, you know, every time I run into a stupid little problem, I like to just do a post in it because everybody runs into stupid little problems. So if they can Google it and come across my post, then I can help them. But yeah, I might leave it at that today. At least we've got the functionality to create lessons and create courses. Oh, you know what? Let's do one last thing to finish it up. I just want to add a search page in here. So let's get out of that. Let's go to course page. We want to manage, video courses page. Or is it manage course? Yeah, manage courses page. And then I'm going to have a way to filter all of the courses. So what we might do is say q-input, and we'll say v-model is equal to search. We'll say search string or filter string. I have done more than 6 projects with this type of scenarios. Yeah, it just crops up over and over again. That's awesome. It sounds like you got a lot of experience. Are you active in the Quasar community, Abel? I hope you're in the Discord channel because we need smart minds like yours. So v-model, let's say filter string. And then we'll go into our setup. And let's say const filter string is equal to a reference to, we'll set it to nothing by default. I've done more than 6 projects here. Is more complex. You have Discord. The Quasar community has Discord. So if we go to, you might actually know this already. Okay, so you are in the Discord channel. But for those of you that don't know, it's totally worth going to quasar.dev, and if we go to get started here, support, go to the Discord channel, Discord chat, because there is a huge community of people there and they are ridiculously active. There's constantly people helping out in the Discord chat. And if you want to PM me directly and say hi, then go ahead. My name's, I think it's @LDbold. So if you want to like send me a message and say, hey, I watched your stream and it was cool, then yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, Laravel Vue Quasar, that's my favorite stack of choice. And you should check out Laravel Orion. That's what we're using behind the scenes here. And that's how I create my API. So check this out. This basically scaffolds out a API for our course. And all we need to do is run that line of code and this line of code for our controller. And if I go to API art route list, and we'll make it condensed, check it out. We get all of these endpoints just from that code. So we can actually search. Where is it? There's a search one here as well. Yeah, there's a search endpoint, so you can use like scopes and filters to filter out all of your endpoints, and it's really, really easy to extend and like sort of mold it to what you need to do. I'm obsessed with Orion. I think it's like this amazing tool. Once again, I'm getting off track. I just love talking about this stuff. I've been inside for 1 year. Yeah, that's great. You probably arrived maybe just after when I arrived, but maybe like sort of around the same time. But yeah, that's cool. All right, so what else am I doing? So we want to do the filter section, and then I need to finish up and actually get to work for the day, because I do have a day job as well. And how about we say here const filtered cards. I'm just going to do a really basic example of this to begin with. Is equal to, and let's create an array, and we'll say create course. And later on, I'll probably like map this to a component, so it works a little bit smarter. Add the route before the route resource. What do you mean by that? Okay, I'm not sure what you mean by add the route before the route resource. Anyway, I'm sure it's a really cool trick that I just don't understand right now. Anyway, we can also say create lesson. So this is going to be how we decide which cards are going to be displayed. So how about we say instead here visible cards, and then I'm going to say const. No, this will be available cards, and then we will filter that list based on the filter string. In fact, VueXORM has a tool for searching really easily. Let's go to VueXORM. Oh no, we're not going to do it that way. Just forget about that total train of thought. So let's say visible cards now is equal to, you can tell that my brain is starting to slow down. Computed. And we're going to yank that out of view. I know how to use this now, which is cool. And then we can say return. And how can I find you in Discord to contribute to what you're doing? Who am I on Discord? Let me just go to Discord and find out what my name is again. Oh, when you say Discord, yeah, so... Yeah, okay, anyway. What is my name on Discord? I'm just trying to figure out my handle. It's LDBot. I'll paste it in the chat for YouTube. There we go. I just sent that into the chat. Okay, so for computed, basically we want to go through all of these and check whether or not the string is included in our filter string. So how about this? We say available cards.filter, and I might change the name to something else, like how about create space course, so that it's easier to search. Create space lesson. And so now we can say card. And then we should be able to say, man, my brain is totally slowing down. Card.includes. I think we've got includes on a string. Or maybe you can just say .find, I think, with a string. So let's try this. Test.find TE and see if that returns anything. No, test.index of. No, text.search. Or is it includes? All right, it is includes. I had it right the first time. So if it's TE, that works, but if it's garbled, then it's false. All right, so we can say card.includes filter string. Oh, I'm almost there. And then we're going to expose visible cards. And then create course and create lesson will be used to decide on whether or not it's going to be visible. So v-if visible cards.includes, and then we'll put in here create course, and then we'll have another one here for create lesson. Create lesson. Hey, Daston! Is that your actual name? I don't know. We'll go with Daston for now anyway. I'm actually almost finished, but the last thing I'm doing is actually setting it up so that we have a filter, because this is my admin page. I want to have a filter so we can say, put in the action that I want to take, like create a lesson or create a card. Yeah, I only pull in Lodash if I really need it, because it's such a big library. And having said that, there is Lodash ES, which is a lot smaller. But I don't know, I kind of like to do, I kind of have the mentality of just use pure JavaScript and use Lodash at the last minute. And by the way, for those of you that are using Lodash, check out Lodash-ES. So what this is it's a version of Lodash that allows you to just pluck out the functions in Lodash that you actually want to use. So rather than pulling the entire library in and having a pretty large file, it allows you to just tree shake things a lot better. So Lodash-ES, I use it all the time in my projects to make sure that I end up with a small bundle size, but still get all of the awesome Lodash functionality. All right, cool. But yeah, that's a great tip. Lodash everything I'm doing right now would be so much easier using Lodash. All right, so I don't actually want this on the card. One of them I put on the wrong area. Yeah, I don't want it on the form. I want to have it on the card itself. All right, so let's see how that works. It shows nothing. We don't need this component under there anymore. I just added it there for when I was testing. What doesn't it like? It doesn't like that I'm trying to use that, and we don't need that anymore. Cool, and now let's make this a little bit different. I like to use the outlined format when I'm doing a search. I don't know why. It just feels like it's a searchy type thing. To use only, yeah. Label is equal to search. Cool, and now check this out. Now I can just search for create. Oh, it's not working. So how about we spit out under the hood available cards, not available cards, sorry, visible cards. Oh, by the way, was I searching through visible cards here? Yep, I was. So let's see if we're actually getting the right results there by using a pre-tag and spitting it out like this. All right, so it shows nothing. And if I show create, it still shows nothing. So what I might do is start digging into actually what's happening in this computed property. Console.log the card. All right, that's not changing at all. So my next guess is that I'm not actually modeling the data. No, I am modeling filtered string. Oh, it's meant to be dot value. That's a mistake I've made quite a few times now. With the composition API, you always have to say dot value when you're within setup. So available cards dot value dot filter. Looks like I did it right there though. Yeah, anyway. Let's see if it works now. Let's say OURSC. So there we go. It just shows course now. And what I want to do is I kind of wanted to say if it's got nothing by default, don't show it all. Or should I have them all visible by default? No, I think I have them all visible by default. Yeah. So there we go. We're going to have a bunch of cards that show all of the actions that I can take. And I'll probably end up displaying it a little bit nicer. Let's get rid of these pre-tags. Don't need that anymore. And we might add a little bit of a margin at the bottom there. Q- margin bottom, medium. Yep. And now let's just say course. And now we've got create course. And we can say lesson. And now we've got create lesson. So now, as I start adding more and more things, I can very easily filter through them. And the last thing I want to do is make it clearable. So notice as I put text in here, I have to like select it and then click on backspace to get rid of it. What we can actually do is just say clearable. Whoops. Spell it correctly though. Clearable. And now I can say course. And then click on the clear button and it works. How cool is that? And now, because I'm a finicky person, I'm just going to come up here and have a no results visible div in here. Like, no results fitted your search. I don't know. How would you explain this? I already sent you a message by Discord. Ah, awesome. I can see it. That's awesome. It's nice. It's really nice to meet you, Abel. And thanks for interacting. I love it when people interact in live chats. So if there's anyone in there right now that isn't interacting, and I know there are because I can see how many viewers there are, say hi. Let me know where you're from. And I'll look it up on Google Maps because I like to see where people are in the world that are watching my live streams. And you've only got about 5 minutes because I'm almost finished now. So let's say here v-if is equal to visible cards.length, but we want to say if it is not visible cards.length, so in other words, if that is empty. By the way, is there a way that we can find out if an array is empty in a nicer way? Array is empty JavaScript. I'd like to be able to say like array.isEmpty. Oh, looks like I've looked this up before. All right, so you can say array.length. I don't feel comfortable putting things on the prototype, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, that's all right. We'll just do it that way. All right, so if we don't have any visible cards showing at the moment, no results. And there we go. I want to center that as well. Class equals text dash. Oh, it looks like it's already centered, actually. Oh, no, it's not centered. There we go. And let's also give it a Q dash margin top of medium. Press page. Why is it giving me results? I should not be getting results there. Visible cards.includes create course. I thought we just built this and it was working. Okay, so it looks like it's got a value by default. All right, so we want to set that to null by default. Okay, because an empty string is truthy. That makes sense now. And let's say course. And there we go. No results to begin with. That is so cool. So, let me just show you some of the other stuff I've built because some of you might not know what I've been up to. If you already know, then you can leave now if you like. But I just want everybody to kind of see where Quasarcast probably, currently stands right now. So, what I'm trying to do is at the moment, I'm just modeling data directly. So if you go into the official website, quasarcast.com, this is something I built really quickly because I just wanted to get my stuff out there. And so I'm just modeling data directly within a JSON file. And that's kind of annoying because I can't use none of this is setting in a database. It means it's really fast, but because it's sitting in a JSON file, it's very difficult for me to change things around. I have to do it in source control. So I decided, right, it's time to hook up a database and do registrations and all that kind of stuff. So now in the last few videos, I've made it so that you can log in. So if I log out now, that logs out and I can click on sign up or I can click on login. All right, so let's log back in and straight away it logs me in. And now I'm basically been working on setting it up so that these courses are pulling from my API. So I've modeled courses on the back end and I've modeled lessons on the back end as well. The other thing I've done is, and this isn't live yet, so you won't be able to see it, I've created a register portal, a place where you can basically just register an account. So for example, Jenny May, and we can say here, jenny@example.com, and we'll just use the default password I've got there. What's going on there? All right, looks like something's not working, but that's what you expect. I mean, this is something I'm still working on. Yeah, okay. So anyway, that'll take you to another page, and then it'll take you to... The next page then is basically says, hey, what's something that you would like to learn with Quasar? yeah, you know what? This is going to annoy me. I need to figure out what this problem is. Oh, it's because I'm currently logged in. So I won't be able to access that page if I'm currently logged in. Gosh, that was kind of silly of me. All right, so let's do this again. Jenny at example.com. So, of course, this page wouldn't even be visible if you're logged in. And there we go. It says, if I could make one video just for you, what would you like to learn? So this is going to give you the opportunity to basically say, hey, I'm having trouble with Firebase with Quasar. Or maybe like Firebase authentication with Quasar. And then you can say next. Oh, I'm not modeling that properly yet, so that's why that just disappeared then. And then that'll basically send that to the backend to me. And then I'm saying, thanks for signing up. I really think you're going to love Quasarcast. And I believe that. You really are going to love this site. I've been putting my heart and soul into it. And it's going to be wonderful. There's going to be a lot of free videos, and then you'll be able to get paid videos as well. If you're interested in going a little bit deeper. Yeah, and then here's a bunch of things that you can do next. So I'm going to have a chatbot you can sign up to with Facebook Messenger. And basically, that means I'll send you on Messenger every 1 or 2 weeks, just like a hot tip, or just to let you know when a new episode of the Quasar show is coming out. That's another thing I should let you guys know about. I'm about to create what I call the Quasar show, and it won't be like this. It won't be a live stream. The Quasar show is going to be kind of like a TV show that's done every single week, where we talk about cool stuff in the Quasar world. And it's going to be something that you can just sit down and watch on the TV at home. You don't need to be in front of a computer. And I'm just going to show you cool things, a little bit in code, but nothing in depth. So you can follow along on a computer if you like. But for the most part, it's just like, hey, check out some of the cool stuff that's happening in Quasar. Check out some other cool stuff in the Vue community. This is some awesome stuff I learned about with the composition API. Just a place for people to learn about the Quasar happenings. And then it's like, hey, do you want to go to the Discord channel? Sign up for that, because we want to get people in there so that they can keep learning about Quasar. And then basically a call to action to donate to the team, because I honestly believe that Quasar is one of the most wonderful frameworks out there. And it baffles my mind. It honestly boggles my mind that they have put so much time and effort into this, and they've given it to us for free. The creator of this has poured his heart and soul into this framework, and he is very dedicated to it, to keeping it alive. And I honestly believe that he deserves to have more money thrown his way. So I'm personally doing what I can to try and make money through my videos. Currently, I'm not making any. This is something for the future when I start building up more of an audience. But I want to make videos and funnel as much money as I can through to the Quasar team, and you guys should do the same as well. So if you're the kind of person who wants to donate to open source and you've never done it before, I highly recommend doing it. I remember when I was a kid, my mother would tell me to put the clothes off the line, or put my clothes on the line. And I'd be like, yes, Mom, I'll do it. And then I would be like, yeah, just after I finished playing Counter-Strike or doing whatever I was doing. And then 2 hours later, it still hasn't been done. She'd say it again. Remember to take the clothes off the line. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I just need to finish eating or finish watching this show. And it never ended up happening. And this kind of stuck with me into my older age in life. And it became a habit of mine to put things off. Where, I'd be like, I'm going to code this afternoon. Oh, but after I've finished watching television, or after I've done this, or I'll pay my bills after I've done X, Y, Z. And it is a bad habit to get into. If you want to be the kind of person who takes the clothes off the line and gets things done, do it the moment you can. If you want to be the kind of person that gets things done, do it straight away. So if you want to be the kind of person that donates to open source, if you don't take action now, you'll probably be thinking, I'm going to do this at some point in my life and it'll never happen. So look, I'm not terribly rich. I think I'm pretty well off, but I want to just get into the habit of donating, even if it's just $1 a month, so that it's something. It's something that I do, and I can say to myself, I am the kind of person that donates. I'm the kind of person that takes the clothes off the line. Otherwise, I will never become that person, and I'll be 50 years old and saying, "Oh yeah, I'll wait until I'm a millionaire, or I'll wait till I have $1 billion, then I'll donate." So I think it's really important to give back, even if you've got a little bit to spare, because it really helps with the community, and we need to support open source software. Otherwise, it's not going to survive. And then closed source software is going to end up, being on top, which worries me, because if closed source software is on top, then everybody ends up paying more money, and we have less of a community feeling in the coding community. I think we got something really special here, and we need to support it. Yeah, so thank you everybody for watching. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you, as I always do. And I'll see you